Okay friends, it's time to get started on our transmission pan. Now as you can tell, we're up under the hood. That's because this is where your fill plug is going to be for the transmission. You're going to want to come right down along the side of where the fuse box is so you can access that. Just reach right down here, unscrew it from the transmission. We'll just give that a quick inspection, make sure the seal's still good. Now the next thing you're going to want to do is make sure you're on a nice flat level surface. We're going to have to get underneath the vehicle, so you want to make sure you're as safe as possible. Now from underneath the vehicle, the next area that we want to pay attention to is right up here. This is located extremely close to your oil drain plug. The plug that we're looking for is considered your check plug. I'm going to remove this using an 11mm. Now that we have the check plug out of there, the next thing we want to do is continue on to the transmission pan itself. On some pans, you might happen to find that they have a drain plug. Of course, if it has a drain plug, that's the best way to go ahead and drain this. Otherwise, you're going to have to go ahead and start removing some of your bolts and let the fluid drain into a collection bucket that way. So now that we have the check plug out of there, let's move along to the drain plug. Now for the drain plug, not every vehicle is necessarily going to have something like this. So, if that's the case, you just want to carefully start removing some of your transmission pan bolts and make sure that you lower this down slowly so you can catch and recycle all of the fluid. For me, I'm going to use a 14mm socket to remove my drain plug. We'll let this fully drain. Let's put that drain plug back in here for now. We'll snug it up. Now, like I said, if you didn't have a drain plug, you're going to have to continue by carefully taking out some of your bolts to drain this out. Mine's drained, so I'm going to continue on by removing all of my 8mm mounting bolts. Inspect each bolt as you remove it. Make sure it's still reusable, and if the threads need to be cleaned, now's the time to do it. For the last bolt, I'm going to make sure I'm holding that pan so it can't fall and potentially hurt me. Let's carefully lower this down. Finish draining it. Now we can carefully remove our reusable gasket. I'll set this aside, we'll deal with it in a second. There it is, friends. Now once you have the transmission pan down, the next thing that I always like to do is clean up the transmission casing. That's the aluminum area that the transmission pan bolts onto. For that, you can use a scraper or even a flat razor blade. Now that I have that scraped, I'm just going to go ahead and wipe it down just to inspect it and make sure that it's a nice smooth surface for my gasket to sit on. After I'm sure everything's cleaned in this area, the next thing I want to move along to is the filter itself. It's a good idea to go ahead and replace this whenever you're doing a transmission pan or even a service. Now our video here isn't necessarily about doing a service so much as the pan itself, but all you want to do is just go ahead and find a filter that matches up and then replace it as needed. Now on most of these vehicles, you're going to notice that it came with a reusable gasket. You can tell that it's reusable because it's not just a paper gasket that's super flimsy. Also, if you were to look around all of the bolt holes, you're going to find that it has a metallic aspect. So essentially all you really want to do is just go ahead and wipe this down and give it a good inspection. Make sure it doesn't look like it's dry, cracked, brittle, or damaged in any way. Assuming it looks good, after you clean it down, we can go ahead and reuse it. Okay friends, now it's time to get ready to install our brand new transmission pan. Let's go ahead and have a look at the inside aspect. If you were to look at this, you're going to find that you have two little notches. The reason why those are strictly marked out is because that's where your magnet's supposed to be. If you were to look inside your original transmission pan, you should find something that looks like this. Just go ahead and pull it off of there, wipe it down, and put it onto your new transmission pan in this specific area. I'm just going to give this one last wipe down and another quick inspection. Now let's put the gasket so it's in place on the transmission pan. We'll just take this and we're going to line it up with the transmission. You want to make sure all of your mounting bolt holes look like they're lined up. There we are. Now at this point, I'm going to continue on to putting in all of my mounting bolts. You never want to go ahead and tighten any of them until you have all of them started. Now that they're all started in, let's continue on by bottoming each of them out. After that, we're going to torque each of them to 106 inch-pounds. Now, if you wanted to, you can continue on around once again, torquing them to 106 inch-pounds. Once you have all those torqued, move along to the drain plug. We're going to torque this to 20 foot-pounds. All right, so now let's just double check everything, make sure we torqued it as needed. After that, let's pay attention up here to our check plug hole. You're going to notice that I left this open for this portion. We're going to make sure we put a collection bucket under this area. After that, let's go ahead and get this back down on the ground on a flat level surface and start adding some transmission fluid. Now the fluid for this is going to be Dextron 6 transmission fluid. It's a specialty transmission fluid, but you can also use something like this that's a global, which essentially is for pretty much any type of vehicle. I'm just going to go ahead and add 6 quarts to start this, then we're going to run it for a little while. We want the transmission temperature to be at approximately 104 degrees Fahrenheit. Now at this point, I'm going to continue on by starting up the vehicle. I'm going to let it run for a little while, and what I want to do is run it through the gears slowly, through each and every gear, make my way back into park, and then continue letting it run till, like I said, it gets up to approximately 104 degrees Fahrenheit. After that, we'll check the fluid level. Now at this point, I've had the car running for a while. I know I'm at my proper temperature, and I'm on a flat level surface. I'm going to continue adding some transmission fluid until I can see some coming out of the check plug down below. Alright, so now at this point, I've seen plenty of fluid coming out of my check plug hole here, and I let it come to a very slow trickle. Let's go ahead and put in our plug. And now we're going to make sure that we tighten it up. Okay, so right there, it felt as though it got a little bit harder. It's pretty much bottomed out. Just gonna take it a little bit more. Now we're gonna wipe this down. We'll give it a little spritz with some parts cleaner, and then we're gonna inspect it to make sure we see no leaks. Now that it's nice and dry, I'm just gonna give it a quick inspection. This looks perfect. Let's get it back on the ground. Now we can carefully remove our fill funnel and reinstall our fill plug. Okay friends, I hope you liked the video. At this point, you're just going to want to go ahead and take it for a road test. Make sure the transmission shifts fine and there's no funny noises. Thanks for watching.